from out there.
And that's fine.
That's fine.
Okay. By the way, I'm the special project producer for the project for them.
Thank you. Good. Appreciate y'all being
Thank
here.
you so much, sir. Appreciate the
We're
guidance.
gonna try to make you at home. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Court TV is coming to join with you.
Okay.
They'll
Tell them.
just plug in.
Come on in.
They'll
More
just-
than there.
They'll just plug in like everybody else.
Mr. Davis.
How are you doing? I'm going to try to get
Okay.
Christopher Bull.
All right. Court come to order. It's about kickoff time.
Doesn't sound
May second, court call to order.
All right. Is that at 1 o'clock, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Let me borrow your file here real quick. All right. Court will call a case, Circuit Court of Lafayette County, call number L21-086, Mona Pittman versus Christopher Voyles. Is Christopher Voyles present? Christopher Voyles. Matter was set for judgment debtor examination. Here, will Mr. Voyles serve?
Yes, sir.
All right. The court will note that Mr. Voyles was set to be here for judgment debtor exam. Today at 1 o'clock. Record reflected he is not present. You can take appropriate actions, just not right now.
Yes, sir. I've been excused.
You may. All right. I previously made an announcement about the microphones. It turns out that we may have the microphones that were at council table were not part of the live feed recording. I'm going to just, any microphones on council table, I'm going to let them be moved. I think they have a microphone will remain at the bench, at the podium, and at the witness stand. Try to talk into those microphones, but there should not be any microphones at your table. But the podium, the bench, and there, and I've instructed the operators of the podium of the microphone here at the bench at any time the parties approach the bench for a bench conference that the microphone will be cut off. All right? All right, who would the state call as the next witness? Jury ready? Bring them back, jury in, if they're ready. Noticed over the years that being on a jury is sort of like being in church. You got your seat anyway. You know, I got my seat at church, and if somebody's sitting in my church, what are you doing in my seat anyway? But it just works out that way. Feel free to sit where you like. I trust the jury had no problem with the court's instruction about discussing the case or forming any opinions about the case. If you ever have any problems in that regard, let me know. I hope the lunch was of sufficient quantity and quality to satisfy everybody, okay? If you have any complaints, talk to the clerk. He's the head chef over there anyway, but he's, I think he'll take good care of you. All right, who would the state call as its next witness?
This time we say we call Jose Reyes.
One more time.
Jose Reyes.
Jose Reyes. You would raise your right hand and be sworn in, please. around and have a seat. You may proceed.
Mr. Reyes, please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name's Jose Reyes. I've been a good friend with Jay Lee since undergrad. And I live in Marshall County with my family. And I went to school here for undergrad and also graduate school for social work.
Hey, so that was a lot. So tell me, you were good friends with Jay Lee.
Yes.
So you were familiar with the victim in Jay's case.
Correct, yes.
But before we get into that, you said you went to undergrad. Where did you go for undergrad?
Here at the University of Mississippi.
Okay, and what year did you come to the University of Mississippi?
2019.
Have you graduated?
Yes, ma'am. I graduated in 2023 with my undergraduate, and then I came back and did my master's and finished this past summer.
And what is your degree in?
Social work.
Is your master's in that as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you currently employed in that field?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
What do you do for work?
I work as a therapist in community mental health.
So let's go on to Jay Lee. How did you meet him?
Funny enough, we met at an Ariana Grande concert in 2019. We were actually living in the same residence hall, but we didn't know about that until later when we met at that concert. And then ever since then, we both realized we love Ariana Grande. And since then, we've just hit it off. And then we later discovered that we were also in the same major. So we just stuck together since then.
And so you said that would be 2019 when you were a freshman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And up until his disappearance in 2022, were you all still close friends?
Yes, ma'am.
Could sort of describe your friendship.
The best way I would describe our friendship would be very much like a sisterly bond, meaning like we would banter, we would gossip, very playful friendship. It was more so like a sister. I didn't really consider Jay Lee as a friend, more so as a sister, but not even like he did identify with he/him pronouns and was cisgender, but more so like, and I guess in queer world, sister's just like your sis. But
Well, actually, I'll have you explain that more.
yeah.
You said that you saw him as a sister. Did Jay Lee identify as a woman?
He did not. He was actually cisgendered. He was comfortable with how he was born. That may not appear at the way he presented himself physically, but we had many conversations. He said that he identified as male, was comfortable in his skin.
So when you say presents himself physically, how did he dress?
Fashionable would be a term. Very unapologetically, very true to himself. He did not care who had anything to say. If he wanted to wear high heels for his 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, he definitely would.
So kind of tell me more about his personality. What was Jay like?
Very vibrant, very silly, very caring, very compassionate. As we spoke, we were both in the same field. We were going towards social work, so you can only imagine how much compassion, how much love and care he had for other people. Very silly, outgoing, family-oriented.
So I kind of want to go back for a minute, just in case the jury didn't fully, I want them to make sure they understand. You used the term cisgendered. You were trying to say essentially that Jay identified as a man and that's how he was born and he knew he was a man.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you aware of Jay ever tried to trick anyone to think he was a woman?
No, ma'am.
but Joey's comfortable being male.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that he was family oriented. Did he talk about his family?
Yes, quite often. He seemed like he had a very, very close connection with his family. He would mention to me that he would speak to his mother daily. He would tell me about his stories with him and his sister.
I hate to interrupt, but I can't understand. He's talking kind of fast.
Slow down just a little bit. Make sure you speak in the microphone, okay?
Okay, can you hear me loud and clear though?
Yes, you can make sure you just speak a little. It's kind of a big room.
Okay.
And so you were saying that you were saying that he was family oriented, and y'all spoke about that.
Yes.
Okay. And you would say y'all were really close friends?
Yes, ma'am.
As a part of that, how often did you all talk to each other?
Daily. We would text here and there, and every once in a while I'd get my FaceTime call from him.
So, did the communication stay the same throughout the school year or into the summer? Did anything change?
I mean, it dwindled a little bit considering he started his internship, so he was fairly busy with his internship. And I was busy trying to enjoy the little bit of my summer before I went back to school. I also had a job at that time, but he was mostly tied up with his internship responsibilities.
So in July 2022, did you still hear from Jay Lee often?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember when the last time you spoke to Jay Lee was?
It was actually the day before on Thursday. It was around close to the end of the day. I believe it was like 4:57, 58. I remember getting a FaceTime call from him. I had just came back from a walk around the neighborhood, and I got a call, and he was just telling me about his day. He was ready to go. It wasn't a long conversation, but we definitely did speak on that Thursday.
And that Thursday would be July 7th?
Correct, yes.
So when you spoke to Jay, was he in a good mood? What was his attitude like?
Yeah, he was in a good mood, happy that it was the end of the day. He was just telling me we should do something this weekend.
So without getting into anything that he particularly said, what was his mood? Was he in a happy mood? Was he sad, depressed? Was he in a good mood?
He seemed in a good mood, yes. He was in good spirits.
Okay. And in your friendship with Jay, had you ever experienced him any type of suicidal ideation or any type of thing of that nature?
None at all.
And is that something you would recognize considering your field of work?
For sure. He definitely has a loud, vibrant personality, so I definitely would have noticed something off if there was anything like that.
Are you aware of if Jay had any social media accounts?
Yes.
Okay. Can you kind of tell me a few the social media accounts that he had?
Well, Instagram, of course, Facebook, Twitter, which was what it was called at that point, TikTok.
And about how often did he post on these accounts?
Fairly often. I consider Jay Lee as my little celebrity. He would post on live. He would post just about anything. If it was a award show, if it was something that was going on, I would expect to hear from him somewhere online.
Would it be fair to say you would see a post from him somewhere daily?
Can you repeat your question?
Would it be fair to say that you would see a post from Jay, maybe a story or anything on one of the social media accounts daily?
Yes. There would not be a day that Jay Lee would not post, whether it was something of him or just something that he had reshared or reposted. He was online pretty actively.
Since July 8th, 2022, have you seen any posts, new posts from Jay Lee?
Unfortunately, no. I wish I have. I miss my little celebrity.
And let's talk a little bit more about, did Jay have any pets?
You have any pets?
Yes.
Yes, he had this spoiled Pomeranian named Lexi. That was his daughter, pretty much.
Do you know if he was close to Lexi or Lexus, the dog?
He was very, very close to, yes, I love that you included her government name. Yes, he's very close to Lexi. He would not really go anywhere without her. She had a backseat cage just for her, and it wasn't even a cage. She was spoiled, like I said, so it was like a little pink, comfy couch for her. She was always with him.
And how did you know that they were close?
I mean, it was so obvious. I mean, during this time, we would probably have their Christmas photo card by now. I remember one year, he dressed her up in...
No, this is cumulative at this point in time. I don't see the relevance
Continue with your answer. You said that around this time they would be sending out the Christmas photo shoot. What 1 year, what did they do? Continue on.
So he would dress Lexi up, and he would be in his Christmas jammies and pose in front of the Christmas tree, and that would be their photo shoot. They would often go on museum dates, go on walks. She was very, very spoiled.
As to Jay Lee's, how did Jay Lee get around Oxford? Do you know?
Usually through his own car.
Do you remember what kind of car he had?
Before he went missing, he had I believe, a black Impala.
So it was a black, like, sedan type car?
Yes.
Did he ever allow you to drive that car?
Only once, and that was strictly for me to run an errand for him.
And what was the errand?
To get his oil changed.
So did he ever, if you needed to borrow it to go someplace, did he allow you to drive it places?
No, I never really got to joyride it. Besides that one time I took it to get his oil changed. I believe he was probably getting like his hair done or something at that time.
You sort of talked about the LGBTQ community and that you all were sisters. Are you also a part of the LGBTQ community?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you familiar with the term down low?
I am.
What does that mean?
Down low would be a word to kind of describe someone who may be a little discreet in their identity, may not really be comfortable with being known that they have interest in same-sex or LGBTQIA activities or things. So kind of like how it sounds down low, just keeping it on the down low, very discreet, not wanting to be known that they were also into that kind of stuff.
And so would that mean that people who are down low, are they, like you said, you identified yourself as a part of the LGBTQ community. Is that something a person on the down low would do in public in court like this?
Can you repeat your question?
So you testified that you are a part of the LGBTQ community. Based on your definition of down low, is that something a person who identifies as down low would do, identify themselves publicly?
No, ma'am, they definitely would not. Very discreet.
Brief indulgence. On the day, July 8th, 2022, I believe you said the last time you talked to him was on the 7th, right? The day before?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
So on July 8th, 2022, did you have any contact with Jay Lee?
Yes, I reached out to him sometime in the middle of the day because I had not responded to his last message from him. And I had sent him, it was like a music video, but I did not hear back from him. And then I later reached out again once I realized that we were wondering where he was.
So how did you learn that no one knew where he was?
I was contacted by his sister, just asking me had I heard from him. And I said no. So at that point, that made me concerned because it must mean a lot if his sister's reaching out to me.
What did you do after having learned that information? Did you try to call him, check on him?
So I instantly texted him. Obviously, I texted him, and upon texting him, I noticed that the messages were green, meaning that they didn't send fully. He has an iPhone, and I have an iPhone, so they weren't blue, and that's when I was like, okay, this is weird. And then I start calling him. Nothing was going through. And that's when I started getting more concerned. At that point, I didn't know what to think.
And did you try to search for him or do anything of that nature?
So after not hearing from him and after my phone calls not going through and my texts going green, yes. So at the time, I believe if I remember correctly, I was at my parents' house with an ex-boyfriend, and I was like, something's up. I asked him, would you mind coming with me?
He said what he said.
I didn't hear you here, so ask me a question anyway.
The question I had asked Mr. Reyes was if you had tried to look for him, and you said you were at your parents' house and that you were with an ex-boyfriend, and you were telling your ex-boyfriend that you were worried. What happened next?
So at that point, I suggested, can we go? Because I live in Potts Camp, so for reference, that's like 50 minutes from here in Marshall County, and I was like, can we go up there just to see, like, at least if his car's parked outside of his apartment complex. And then my parents, they weren't comfortable with me and him going alone, so they accompanied us as well. So we all hopped in our family vehicle, and we headed to Oxford, to his apartment complex. His vehicle was not there. I went up to his door.
Was he there?
He was not there. I knocked on his door, and all I could hear was Lexi through the door.
So you could hear the dog in there. And since that time, have you seen or heard from your friend Jaylee?
I have not.
Brief indulgence.
Cross examination.
Thank you.
Ask you a couple of questions about your social media connections or contact with Jay Lee. Can you tell me what accounts that you used through Snapchat or Instagram when you communicated with Mr. Lee?
So we would primarily contact each other through iMessage, so through text. Every once in a while we would send something to each other through Instagram, like a funny video or a post that we saw online.
Okay. And would it be a fair statement that that you were familiar with Mr. Lee's, according to what your direct testimony was, his sexual preferences?
Can you repeat your question?
Were you familiar with Mr. Lee's sexual preferences?
As far as?
Through your conversations with him, whether or not he was homosexual or bisexual or what he identified as. You're familiar with that, being in the same community with him, correct?
Yes.
And is it a fair statement that Mr. Lee was transsexual. Is that a fair statement?
It is not.
Well, tell me, based on what I understand on the reports that I've been provided, information that would lead someone to believe that's the fact. What is your representation that he was straight?
So as I mentioned previously, I said that he was cisgender, and he also liked men as well, but he was comfortable in his own skin.
All right. But as far as his activity, and you knew him, apparently y'all were best friends or close to being really good friends, right?
Yes.
Okay. As far as your connection with him, is it a fair statement that Mr. Lee would dress up as a woman or in that manner and hook up with men, both of the community as well as individuals that you characterize as down low? Fair statement?
What was your question? What was your
The question
statement?
is, he dressed up flamboyantly as basically as a woman, correct? A lot of times.
He dressed as Jay Lee.
Okay, it's Jamie. But understand, but if someone, he just dressed up, if you just looked at him, he appeared to be dressed up as a woman on a lot of occasions, or at least in a feminine manner. Is that a fair statement?
He dressed very fashionably.
Okay, all right. So would that also be a fair statement that he, quote unquote, liked to hook up with people that were on the down low?
Excuse me?
Was it a fair statement based on, is it a fair statement based on what you know about Jay Lee that he liked to hook up with individuals that were, what you testified earlier, were on the down low? That he liked to do that? Is that right?
What's the relevancy to this question, sir?
Just ask the question. You got an answer.
Can you rephrase it? I'm sorry.
Well, I want to, and I'm trying not to ask you anything that I understand that you've already provided in the statement, but my question is that whether or not Jay Lee liked to hook up with individuals, I'm not saying whether it's men or women or what, but individuals that were on the down low. He'd like to do that, correct?
No.
Well, do you recall on July the 11th giving a statement to Sergeant Douglas and Lieutenant Queen Jones where you in fact told him?
Objection, Your Honor. Improper impeachment.
I don't know what the statement says, I don't know. Not general statement, your approach.
Again, Mr. Reyes, do you recall giving a statement on July the 11th to Sergeant Douglas and Lieutenant Queen Jones? I believe, I don't know exactly where you were, but you remember giving a statement to those two police officers?
What was the statement?
Well, I'm just asking, do you remember talking to them first?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember making the statement to them, or did you in fact make the statement to them that Lee liked to hook up with people who were on the down low?
Is that what it says?
Making that statement.
It was 2 years ago, so I'm not quite sure what exactly I said.
At this point, you can't admit or deny that you made the statement. Is that a fair statement?
Let him look at the
I'm
statement.
going to, but I want to make sure, give him one more opportunity. Do you remember making that statement?
No, I do not remember making that statement.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I have an objection to this as well, because that's not his statement. That's,
Let me see what you're arguing about. Yes.
my objection is, I'm not saying you didn't make a statement. I'm saying that, one, if you're going to refer.
Just out of curiosity, can y'all hear me when I'm up here whispering? Good. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Madam, Your Honor, I'd like to have this item marked, for identification.
Identification service can be remarked. I guess that's gonna be D1.
Can we just do 1, 2, 3, 4?
Without the S.
No, I'm doing the S and Ds.
What,
I'll do D1.
do whatever you want to. You make it D1? All right, that's where I be on, right?
For ID at this time. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Mr. Ed?
Yes.
I want you to look at this, what's been identified in D1. And if you would look over it, please, and read it and tell me, after you read it, let me know that you've read it, okay? It's 2 pages.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. After having reviewed defense exhibit for identification, even when you recall making those statements to the two detectives, I referenced early investigators, you remember making that statement?
A similar statement, but I'm not sure if I used those terms that you stated.
And also, can you state whether or not, based on your relationship with Mr. Lee, having knowledge of his activity within the community, whether or not he would hook up with people on a regular basis?
What does a regular basis look like?
Well, regular basis, I mean, have sexual contact or hookups referenced in this with, I mean, more than once a week, on a regular basis.
Oh, no, Jay Lee was very protective about that stuff. He only did so with people he had talked to, at least for a little bit.
Okay. And, in fact, he didn't tell you the names of any of the people that he hooked up with, but provided to you nicknames, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as far as the statement that you made to Miss Douglas, Detective Sergeant Douglas and Lieutenant Jones, you did that voluntarily. They just were interviewing you to basically, this was on July the 11th, just brought you in, interviewed, it was voluntary on your part, and you were free and open about your relationship with Jay Lee, your friendship, things of that nature. Fair statement?
Fair.
Okay. Can you tell me the names of the social media, either Snapchat or Instagram messages or anything like that you previously testified that y'all just really Snapchatted, right? Mostly. Did you ever do any social media or Instagram with him through any accounts at all?
What do you mean?
Can you repeat? Message him through any Instagram accounts ever?
Yes. I stated earlier that we contacted each other mostly through iMessage and every once in a while through Instagram and Snapchat.
All right. I thought that's what you said. I want to make sure.
Yes, sir.
What was the name of your account at that time?
Which account?
That you used primarily with Jay Lee.
I would use my Instagram account. I'm not too sure what it's actually called, but it's a variation of my name, Jose.
Okay. And look, Mr. S., I'm not trying to tie you down to remember what you used 2 years ago, but do you recall, if you can recall that account that you used during that time frame that you communicated with Jay Lee?
Yes, I said it was a variation of my name, Jose, so it was spelled HOE.SAY.
Okay. And do you recall the name of the account that you communicated with Mr. Lee?
I know he went through several changes in his username. I want to say it might have been something like I am Jay Lee or something of that nature.
Okay. Now, you indicated that that you've never had any conversations where Mr. Lee ever had any suicidal thoughts or ideations of suicide. You did have conversations with him through social media or through some of these accounts about Jay Lee's, for lack of a better word, promiscuous conduct in his life, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
You had conversations, did you not, through your either Snapchat or Instagram, things of that nature, where you had, I'm not getting into the details of it, but you had conversations with Jay Lee about his activities within the community there, as far as hookups, names he wouldn't provide, things that he did, things that he preferred, things like that, right? I mean, you were close friends. You had those conversations, right?
Yes.
Okay. And part of those conversations, as I understand, was that, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong or untoward about it, but some of these conversations involve conduct on Mr. Lee's part where you kind of enjoyed the fact that you see guys out and you dress like a woman and they kind of find out he was a woman like later on, and you kind of enjoyed that, didn't you?
No.
You did not enjoy that?
Like, he would not dress up as a woman to meet these people.
Okay. Well,
He
he dressed up in a feminine way. Fair statement, right?
Generally, yes, but not just specifically to hook up, as you say.
But he did dress up during courting, as I understand it, to some of the information that's been provided as a result of search warrants that were done on behalf of the Oxford Police Department, University Police Department, that he would hook up with individuals dressed in the manner that you previously described in your testimony, right? As dressed up, feminine, flamboyant, and in a manner, he dressed up and met people in that fashion, right? When he was dressed up like that, right?
No, sir.
He never did that?
He may have, but that wasn't, he did not dress up just to meet with these people.
Mr. S., I didn't say that, but just to meet those people, he did that generally.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
During the course of, quote unquote, some of the hookups that you referenced, he would dress in that manner. Fair statement?
He dressed that yes,
Okay.
generally, yes.
Thank you. And also, you're familiar with the fact that Jay Lee, as far as his routine and habit there in the community, as far as the LGBTQ community, he was one of the individuals that was well recognized in the community in the Oxford area, right?
Yes.
And also that you state that he wouldn't go anywhere without the dog, but he didn't take his dog out when he was engaged in hookup with folks in this area. Fair statement?
That's fair.
And also these hookups that you're making reference to, a lot of times, Mr. Harrison, some of these hookups were people, and let's be honest, that he'd never met before except through social media, that he would meet through social media, get dressed, or go meet people out in the community late at night, all hours of the day. Fair statement?
I don't believe they were random, or I don't believe they were
I'm not necessarily saying they're random. I'm saying whether or not he would meet them through social media or through conversations as a result of his activity in the community. A lot of times we'll go out and meet them in different places in the community, right?
I'm not familiar with where he was meeting them at.
Well, it'd be a fair statement, would it not, Mr. Reyes, that Jay Lee likewise was participating in the download aspect of that community, those individuals you described that they keep it secret, but he was participating in that aspect of the download community. Fair statement?
No, not a
Well,
fair statement.
You do know that he used nicknames for certain individuals that he hooked up with. One of the nicknames, according to your statement, was medical student, nickname of confusion, and other nicknames that Jay Lee used to associate those names with people that you didn't know. He kept to himself, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it would be a fair statement as what you described as in the download community that he was working or he was doing things that he was keeping secrets from you and all other people that are at least to you about what he was doing in his personal sexual life and the sexual activity that he was carrying on. Fair statement?
Can you rephrase your statement, please?
He wasn't telling you everything he was doing in his private life.
Correct.
Associated names with numbers of people, whether it be confusion or medical students, and there were other nicknames that he told you about, right? Numerous nicknames of other people, right?
Maybe not numerous. Those are just a few of the ones that I recall.
Okay. Those all that you can recall at the time you gave that statement. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I usually get my man who used English. You know, the parents sometimes get it Spanish.
Go on, those. When you got back to, when you went by Mr. Lee's apartment, what was it? Did you go inside?
I did not go inside.
Excuse me.
I did not go inside. The door was locked from the outside.
The door was locked from the outside?
He stayed on campus, so the way the doors work on campus, you have to have key card access. That's the only way you can get into the room.
You know how many times you were interviewed Mr. Reyes by members either the University Police Department or Oxford Police Department?
No, sir, I cannot recall.
Okay. You don't recall any of those conversations?
I recall the conversation.
I'm sorry, rephrase my question. You don't remember how many times you were interviewed?
No, sir.
Okay. That's all I have.
Amen.
Jose, I want to give you a chance to clear some stuff up I was confused about on cross-examination.
Okay.
So, what was Jay Lee's sexual orientation?
Homosexual.
So he was gay.
Yes.
Okay. And I believe defense counsel was asking about like transsexual, like when you stated Jay Lee's gender, what did Jay Lee identify as?
Male.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Male.
Male.
So as I mentioned earlier, cisgender, so he was born male, he was comfortable with his male, like how he was, yes.
And you believe they said that he would dress as in a feminine way sometimes. That's what was said on Cross. Was that accurate? Sometimes he would dress in a feminine way.
In a fashionable way, yes, ma'am.
Yes. And when he would dress that way, was that his usual thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, like, when you say fashionable, was he wearing dresses every day, pants every day? Like, what? Describe some of his outfits.
I mean, sometimes it might be a pantsuit, sometimes it might be a dress. It just depended on his mood. Obviously, in college, sometimes we're running late, so sometimes it was sweats in a sweatshirt, but mostly when he could, he would dress to the fullest.
And just so we can make sure that it's clear, did he dress this way, as far as your knowledge, to attract men?
No, ma'am. He dressed that way for himself. I don't think he ever seeked validation from men, like I said earlier, very unapologetically.
We talked about participating in the down low culture. Was Jay Lee down low?
No, ma'am. As fashionably as he dressed, no, ma'am.
So it was obvious that he was gay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But when opposing counsel was talking about participating in the down low culture, I think he was referencing Jay didn't out people.
Correct.
Can you kind of explain what that means to out people?
So a lot of times, as I mentioned, sometimes men that are down low, they may not be ready to really reveal their interests, who they really are. So, and obviously, people come from different households and different settings, so outing somebody could essentially be telling other people that this person is XYZ without their consent. So a lot of times we will like protect identities just to be courteous. Some people may not be ready for that, so we'd be mindful and we would not out anybody.
So people who are not ready to come out, why is that?
I mean, that can be a number of reasons. I couldn't just put one thing. Like I mentioned, family, fear of being discriminated, stuff of that nature.
And so these men that are on the down low, they're trying to keep this a secret, correct?
I believe so.
And they don't want to be exposed, correct?
I didn't.
Correct.
He did this on cross examination.
Now, did you know Jay Lee's type?
I mean, I believe he would like go towards more masculine energy. I don't think it would ever just be a specific type, but it would be more so just someone more masculine.
So people who are kind of less like him.
Yes, ma'am.
But at the end of the day, he liked men who liked men.
Yes, ma'am.
On cross-examination, defense counsel asked about hooking up with people. He was hooking up with all these people. And you started saying he didn't just hook up with random people. What's your understanding of the people back in 2022 that Jay Lee was hooking up with?
As I mentioned earlier, Jay Lee was very protective of himself, so he would make sure that he knew them a little bit to some degree. He would not be the type of person to just get on and see somebody online and message them to hang out.
So he wasn't having random hookups. You also said on cross-examination that he was well recognized in the LGBTQ community. Would that be fair in Oxford?
Yes, ma'am.
So it was well known that he was a man, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it normal if someone is trying to hide their sexuality, to try to protect them?
Your Honor, object question. And also didn't go into that.
I didn't understand the question.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor.
Okay. You can rephrase or repeat, whichever one you want to do. I didn't get it
I
anyway.
can rephrase. In the LGBTQ community, is it normal or abnormal, you tell me, to not expose or out someone who is on the down low?
I mean, it's more sort of like of a courteous type of thing. Obviously, someone wouldn't want to be outed, so why would someone else out somebody else? But yes, ma'am.
You wouldn't want someone to do that to you.
Correct.
I never got anything out of it. I was objecting to it.
Let's move on.
Brief indulgence. Your Honor, no further questions.
Shouldn't be finally excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're free to go to the meeting or you just want to go and you stay, whichever one you want to do, okay? But you can return to the audience or go home or whatever you like, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, it's been out about an hour. We on a break? We on how long is this going to take?
About the same,
What?
about the same amount of time.
Break?
Your Honor, can I ask for a quick thought?
All right, let's get a few minute break because it's, let's take a look, as quick as you can.